Really enjoyed hanging out with Joey this afternoon. Met for lunch with Pastor Jamie and Paul, and they were getting ready for a new attendee to the church coming down from the state of Maine, where I'll be later on this summer, doing a men's retreat to the Moose River Outpost, almost up to the Canadian border. But I really enjoyed my time. Joey and I came and set up this afternoon. You guys have a great staff. Appreciate all their investment of time. Let's give it up for the staff here today. So question one on the table, where are you on the spiritual journey? I have 6 chairs that identify these 6 placements on the golf course. Freddie is here tonight. He was one of the guys, Chandler Riddle, Richard Johnson, and others, avid golfers that I saw, you know what, we can have a chance to experience the ministry of hanging out. Let's have a golf tournament as an outreach in the community. And so we had some good times playing on some of the courses. Richard's with the Lord now, but Bob Toski, the famous putter that Chandler had, he was quite a player on the course. When we think about the golf course, I find some identification there that the scriptures also give clarity. And from my 30 years of ministry to men, these are the 6 placements that I find on the course of life. So as we walk through this particular progression, I want you to take spiritual inventory and let's see where you are. The first 2 categories are men who are in the community. They're probably not here tonight, but if they are, we're going to welcome them because you can belong before you believe. And then the next 2 guys are found in the congregation. They are enlisted, but they are not engaged. So we'll talk about reasons why they're not finding engagement in the discipleship process. Then the last 2 guys are part of a core group, which a number of you, no doubt, may be in this particular occasion. But it's a digital process, 1.5, 2.3, 3.7, so on and so forth. And we take a few steps forward in our faith, we take a few steps back. Now, it's not based upon our human merit, it's from the amazing grace of God. It's on God's watch to draw us to the original fire. It's on our watch to learn how to rekindle the flame. I was teaching on that passage out of Leviticus recently, the burnt offering, where 3 times it says the fire must not burn out. In the old sawdust trail era that some of you grew up in like I did, and they talk about a man being on fire for God. Third Day has that modern worship tune called Soul on Fire, and it really talks about that. So this is a progression. It is a person who has experienced God's amazing grace, but is walking with Him in full surrender. And most men are not there. So we're on a mission to reach them. You have to first of all recognize where you are in the process. So, your handout gives an overview of this. Let me walk through these particular categories, starting with the first 2. In the first placement on the course of life is a man who finds himself in the woods. And that particular individual, from a biblical standpoint, is spiritually off course. The scriptures tell us, as we look into that particular passage and see in the book of Luke chapter 19, verse number 10, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. And as a result of that process, we see guys who are striving to understand fully where they find themselves. So, that individual is asking, is there a God? He may be an atheist, he may be an agnostic, but he's spiritually off course. We find them in the community. If you happen to be invited and you came tonight, I never want to assume that, even in a place where I may be a little familiar with you that. We're excited you're with us. Again, walk the car lot, raise the hood, kick the tires. Hope you enjoy your time with us tonight. We'd love you to experience God's amazing grace as His sovereign plan unfolds. Then there's the second placement on the course of life. And that's the guy who is in the rough. He is spiritually inquiring. You know, there's times we're out playing golf and we'll hit the ball into the rough, and if the grass has any height to it, especially like at the Masters when you watch the PGA Tour, it may take a while to find the ball. Okay? So we've got a lost ball in the woods, and on some occasions, we need somebody to help us find our way when it's in the rough. Do you know there are men like that in the community? And they're asking some questions. They're inquiring about the things of God, and they're longing for us to make a connection with them. And so if that's where you are, you ask some questions, you're at the early stages of this process, again, we invite you at the stage where you are at this particular time. and we long to see God reveal himself completely to you. Let's talk about some ways to reach these guys. If they're in the community, they're not walking through our turnstiles on a given Sunday. It used to be, back in the day, they would walk in, either to a crusade or to a church service. But they don't walk in any longer. And so we've got to go be Jesus to these people. We've got to go hang out where they are. I talk about 1 Thessalonians 2:8, which is the theme verse for our ministry. Paul told the church at Thessalonica, I delighted to share with you not only the good news of the gospel, but to share my life as well. I find leaders much more willing to sit down and want to study the written word, but they're not as willing to go out and invest the living word. I've spent my life with the living word, sharing with guys, particularly here in the community. I'm a season ticket holder, Clemson, South Carolina. And I've taken 75 guys to a college football game in the last 10 years. When my father-in-law passed away, we took some of his inheritance money, and at our church in Charlotte, there was a Clemson alum who moved down to Cleveland, Ohio, and he had not been fully discipled. I saw his Clemson paraphernalia. I said, Phil, listen, you're an alum. I'm a fan. Let's go down to the games, and I'll share with you what we talked about on Monday night at our D group. D stands for discipleship. So the first couple of years was just discipling Phil at a college football game. And then I said, okay, my father-in-law's passed away. I want about 2 tickets, Roger Iptay coattails, and we're going to start taking some other guys with us. I'll never forget, we took a guy from category number 2. We had a gathering like this on a Saturday morning. It was a men's breakfast, then a time of discussion. And so I told the individual whom I invited, we'll let Billy Smith be some role playing right here. And I said, Billy, listen, we're looking forward to going to the game on Saturday. We're going to be leaving from the church parking lot at 9:30. But now you're invited to join our men's group at 8 o'clock. No obligation, just an invitation. You see, I'm going to stand back and not offer him human coercion. Hey, Billy, I'm glad to take you to the football game. Listen, if you don't know Jesus Christ as your Savior, what if our car wrecks going on the interstate highway? We sold a lot of fire insurance back in the day talking like that. That's human coercion. We have to allow the Spirit of God to do His work. You see, I might be a link in the chain with Billy, and then Paul's going to come alongside and also have a chance to invest in his life. We're all links in the chain in ministering to these particular individuals. The guy went with us. He chose not to come to the men's gathering like we're having tonight, but he's out there waiting for us on that Saturday morning at 9:30. We head down to Tigertown, and I'm the defensive coordinator for our group, so I would assign you to coach the linebackers, I coach the DBs. Man, these Gamecocks, man, they gave us a scare over there at Tigertown, that rivalry. I was a little bit concerned back there. But see, we were just trying to get ready to make Alabama a little more overconfident. So it was a hard time. But we need to have some DBs, coached up better in that particular contest. So these guys see you enjoying just fun things, real stuff that men involve themselves with. And this guy said this when we got back at the end of the day. I almost didn't go with you guys today because I thought you might be singing Kumbaya. But instead, you are real men who love real men's stuff, but you believe in a real God. And this is all new to me because my understanding of who God is totally different than what I saw portrayed today. You are not holy Joes. You are just regular Joes. Now, I don't need to go print up a brochure. When a man tells me that is allowing ourselves to take a man and nudge him as far as he wants to go toward the things of God. Again, back in the old days, man, we would lasso them. Churches would have roundup Sunday. Let's go round up all the strays. Let's go reach those guys for Christ. Let's go bring them onto our campus. Hey, I did some of that back in the 80s when I was here. I wouldn't do it today. You know why? Because it's a different culture. It's a different era. And so, as Pastor Fraser said often, methods are many, principles are few. Methods may change, but principles never do. I still have the heart of God to reach people who are spiritually off course and who are spiritually inquiring. Okay? But I guarantee you, Fred wouldn't pull out my grandfather's Walter Hagen irons. He's going to have probably a set of pings that Brad got him some for Christmas. So you see, you got to be able to use different methodology to still accomplish the same mission. Are you a regular Joe? Or are you a holy Joe? We reach these guys in that particular format. Now, let's hit the pause button on these guys in the community, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to learn how you can use your life as an ambassador for Jesus Christ. You may think, man, I can't get up there with a microphone and talk to guys. I certainly could talk to somebody one-on-one. Here's how you're going to reach them. What is a hobby or interest? Now, I don't want a Holy Joe answer. You've never been to the Holy Land? I recommend it. That's not what I want to hear. You know what? These guys don't want to go to the Holy Land with me. Okay? What I want to hear from a hobby or interest perspective: hiking, fishing, hunting, classic cars, those kind of things. And so, let's walk around the table. Let's give me a couple options. Give me a hobby or interest. Football.
Cycling.
Gardening.
Pass.
Hunting.
Food.
Running.
Hunting.
The country.
Golf. Trucks.
Trucks. Okay.
Golf.
Golf. Golf.
Travel.
Sports. Volleyball. Sports. Yard.
Swimming.
Travel.
Woodworking. Baseball.
Cankering.
Baseball.
Movies.
Soccer.
Any athletic event.
Hunt. Hunt.
So we got a little cross section there. Okay. A hunting. I heard that 4 or 5 times. Let me have all the hunters to stand. You guys enjoy hunting? Just stand up. Okay. When we take a break in a little bit, I want you 4 guys to get together and talk about hunting. Okay? All right, you can be seated. My golfers, I heard golf from 4 or 5 of you. Either wave your hand at me so you can see who they were. Okay? I want you guys to get together during the break. I want you to talk about what was your favorite course you'd like to play. Over here, let's talk about some, kills over there at last season. Woodworking was unique. Where's my woodworker back here? There we go. Anybody else in woodworking? Okay. Now let me. You like woodworking? Okay. There's an example of, not everybody is a stick and ball guy, right? So that's why you got to know your players and have a chance. If Cooper is over here in cheer 1 and 2, do you know how we're going to reach Cooper? We're going to reach him through woodworking. We're going to go to woodworking shows. I'm going to go see his lathe, which may be in his basement or his garage. I'm going to take an interest. There's guys around the country that get together on Saturdays, not for a men's breakfast, certainly not for a Bible study, and they work on classic cars. You know why? Because there's a couple guys they work with or in their neighborhood that are over here in cheer 1 and 2. And you know where Jesus would be? He'd be hanging out with these guys in the garage. You've got to think creatively and leverage what you enjoy. Ben mentioned travel. I'm getting ready to go to Montana in a few weeks. Anybody ever been to Glacier National Park? Here y'all. Glacier National Park. Okay? Your life is incomplete until you go to Glacier National Park. I have had a chance to be there on 3 occasions. I can't wait to get back. When I go up there and speak, I said, give me 1 full day and bring me some guys from chairs 1 and 2 that I can go on a hiking trip through Glacier National Park. I went to Alaska the last time I was there, and they said, now, Coach, listen, Montana's going to take a distant second. Where's my Alaska travelers? Have I been to Alaska? Cruising or whatever? They said Alaska will be Montana on steroids. But you know what? In my view, while Alaska was just overwhelming, it was almost too overwhelming. Such a humongous state, a lot of things to see and do. And yeah, those glaciers and stuff like that up there are very unique versus Montana. But I'll take Glacier National Park. You give me 1 day to go spend in a national park. That's where I would go. So here's the guy that likes travel. I would go trade baseball cards with him if he's in categories 1 and 2 and talk about, hey, what's on your bucket list? Where have you traveled to? I've been to the Far East, which I know he has been. So we get to know each other over travel. And then, after time, something like this happens. Ben, it's fascinating the places that you've been and some of the places that you want to go, I want to go as well. But you know what? There's an ultimate destination. that trumps everything that we've talked about. And then Jesus comes onto the table. But not the first 5 minutes after I meet the guy. Billy Graham passed away at 100 years of age. God used him. But they're not going to be having crusades anymore. So again, methods change, principles never do. So if he likes travel, I'm going to go experience the ministry of hanging out, maybe over his house, having a chance to watch something on the Travel Channel, to enjoy my wife and his wife. Maybe we do a double date. And in turn, as I earn trust, as I get a chance to get to know him, then over time, maybe 6 weeks, maybe 6 months. But I'm willing to make that investment of time. Because often, he will come to me and say, what's your ultimate destination? Then you know what? He has teed the ball up. And I have a chance not to come in and overpower him, but to share him with Ben, listen, as much as I love Montana, my citizenship is in heaven. And I'd love for you to travel with me there someday. If you ever have an interest in, let me be your tour guide, I'd love to be able to chat with you. So I'm standing back. I'm not providing human coercion. I'm letting the Spirit of God do His work. We're going to reach these guys in the community. Okay? We can't reach them like we did when I was here in the 80s. We can't reach them like we did on the Sawdust Trail. We still have a heart for God, but our desire is to be creative and leverage where you're investing your time, both from the standpoint of outreach as well as from a standpoint of discipleship. Let's go to the next two. Probably most of you are not here, but you know somebody that's there. And so I want you to think about a person's name that's either in chair 1 or in chair 2. You might be investing some time with that individual. They're spiritually off course. You can even take it to a Gamecocks game, okay? If that's the case. But what are some ways to connect with these fellows of what they enjoy doing? That is the method of Jesus. He met the tax collector over his vocation. He met the fishermen on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. Did he round all those guys up on Roundup Sunday and say, come on down to the temple. Let's put the robes on. Let's get really stiff and formal. And I'm going to preach from the temple. No. During his earthly ministry, he hung out for 20 months on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, having traveled there. That's my favorite stop on the tour. You know why? Because they can't commercialize it. I wouldn't even go back to Nazareth and Bethlehem. They're hawking all their wares there. You can't think about the insignificant placement of the birth of the Almighty God of the universe, who walked across the stars and came to planet Earth because of all the commercialization over there. I couldn't enjoy it. I couldn't reflect on the greatness of our God. But I would go back to the shores of the Sea of Galilee and to think about those 20 months. The Scriptures don't always teach. As he went to Dallas Seminary and worked in the original languages, he didn't always talk about when he set up a campfire. But I believe around those campfires, there was a lot of ministry of hanging out. He was trading some fishing stories with those guys. Some of that is recorded in the New Testament. We see Jesus being life on life. That should be our desire in these two realms. The third stage of a man's spiritual journey, including some of you here tonight, is the man who is not spiritually off course. He's not spiritually inquiring. He has experienced God's amazing grace, but right now, he is in a season of suffering. And that man finds himself in the trap. Hey, when I was on the golf course, it took a lot of touch around the green. I'd get just buried in a sand trap. I was up at Tanglewood Park one time playing a church golf tournament. Captain's choice is fine because the putter and the 7-iron I do pretty decently with. I need Brad to come off the tee. I need the long irons of his dad, Fred. But man, we get buried in a trap. I'm not your man to get you a sand set. I'm not as experienced. I'm not as skillful as I should be. Do you know a lot of men are buried in a trap of life? They've lost their job. They've had a broken relationship. They may have lost their health, and you don't even know about it. Because we play it close to the vest. When women get together, they'll become very relational. They trade baseball cards much easier. And so to have emotional health, most men keep things within themselves. James 5:13 says, is anyone among you suffering hardships? There are men in this room here tonight that are suffering some hardships. It may not be known to you. It's definitely known to the Lord. And some of us that are having a chance to crawl in their foxhole, as session 2 we'll talk about, we experience that together. And then the stage 4 of an individual who finds himself on the fringe. You see, we're making a progression on the course we're using golf clubs in the woods, in the rough, we're in the trap. Here's the guy that ends up on the fringe. Churches have 50 to 70% of their guys on the fringe. The guys that are on the fringe, Hebrews talks about them being inexperienced in God's ways. Yes, they're living off milk. We have beat these fellows up for far too long. I was with a group of pastors that do a lot of leadership training around the country. We go and speak to men's groups like this. But a lot of times the next morning, we'll do some leadership training and talk about, okay, how can we effectively reach these guys? I want you to answer the question tonight, where are you on the journey? But I would talk to leaders and say, okay, let's do a drill down. Here's some ideas. Here's some plays in your playbook to effectively reach these guys. Far more than we're just scratching the surface for this evening. And I asked a group in Pennsylvania, what is your greatest challenge with reaching the men on the fringe? And a pastor said this, very condescendingly, those men just don't get it. And I understand his frustration because they are not fully committed to Christ. But it's because they're inexperienced. I stood on that same blame train and get frustrated with those guys. I was that way with the students here. Hey, I was longing for the students that had a heart for God. I wasn't as patient as I should have been with some of those guys on the fringe. I've had to go back to some of them over here and say, listen, the leader you saw in 85, 86, and 87, I was coming with truth. But as a Christian counselor, it reminded me one time. The book of John says Jesus came full of what class? Grace and truth. And the counselor said this, don't ever forget which one came first. You see, most of us grew up in a tribe that we're going to break truth to people. And we should stand for truth. But truth that's not packaged with the grace is legalism. And we take people back to the Old Testament and give them an unfair standard to live by. Yes, there should be a desire for godliness. Yes, there should be a desire for purity. Yes, there should be a desire to go forward in our faith. But it can't be packaged with truth without grace. That was not the ministry of Jesus. That is unbiblical. And we have to address that. Because just like there's father's wounds, sociologically, with these groups, as they make a progression in culture, some of them have been infected by their earthly fathers. There's also church wounds. That's the biggest lesson I've learned in the last 5 years in traveling to 1,000 churches. Where there's been abuse, where there's been neglect, where there's been an unfair anticipation. We're not shepherding the flock. And that's one thing Pastor Frazier taught me. I came to town, a rookie on the scene, out of a coaching background. He was so gracious. 34 years ago this week. That hit me when I was driving down here to the PD. 34 years ago, I get a phone call. My uncle, Jack Hudson, pastor of a large church, had sent out some recommendation letters that I was going to be available to come onto a church staff, transitioning out of a coaching background and coming into a pastoral role as an associate. And Pastor Frazier called me. Hey, I got the recommendation letter from your uncle, whom I know very well and respect him highly. I feel like you might be a good fit for us. And can we meet in Monroe? Man, the guy came all the way to Monroe. That wouldn't happen today. I'd be coming all the way to Hartsville. And rightfully so. He drove 2/3 of the way to meet me. And he and his dear wife met Candy and I at this fantastic evening. But I was drawn to the man because I could tell there is a man that walks with God. I have been with people who had worked for God and wanted us to join their team to serve God. But just to be around his countenance, he radiated godliness. And I want to be up under that kind of influence. So we show up at the first staff meeting. I said, Pastor Frazier, I got 1,000 ideas. I got 1,000 plays in my playbook. I said, but I want to respect, man. You know, you've been a war horse. And that's a term of endearment, if you understand that from the athletic realm. You've been a war horse here for 3 decades. I'm the rookie on the block. I want to just sit here and learn from you. He said, no. Every one of your ideas, I want to hear this. Let's strive to accomplish and I want a set of fresh eyes. Just like a good coach wants to make sure his team stays fresh. The other day, Dabo Swinney's press conference, the reporters were there, and they said, well, Coach Swinney, man, isn't that just a breath of fresh air to walk out there to practice, and you got no quarterback controversy? It's not Kelly Bryant, and how long is he going to be there until the franchise takes over, as it was last year? That was the number one question. How long is Kelly going to be there? I went to the spring game, and Sunshine drops that 50-yarder down the sideline to T. Higgins. I'm thinking, hey, Dabo, we don't need to go through fall practice. Here's the man right here. Thank you, Kelly. You know, you could run the ball, but you couldn't beat the Sabernet. You could get us to the top of the mountain, but you couldn't plant the flag. So you make a good backup guy. So Sunshine comes in there, and though they want to give the trophy away all season long, the Alabama's the greatest team in history. No, there was one team that stayed focused and continued to pound away and accomplish a great feat. But at practice the other day, Dabo didn't agree with those reports. He said, what do you mean the decision's been made? Trevor Lawrence doesn't have a job. He's got to go earn his job. Now, when I first heard that, I thought, dude, man, is that the way to give confidence to a young quarterback who just went and accomplished what a lot of people have never done as a true freshman? Amazing stuff. But you know what a good coach does? Here's the potential level of a player, and here's his performance level. Now, Trevor raised his performance to match his potential. But guess what? It's a clean slate, it's a new team, and it's a new day. And I'm going to be fair to Chad, the second-string quarterback, and all the other guys coming in. We got a hot-shot freshman coming up the ranks. Now, I don't predict those guys to win the job at all. It'll be Trevor's. But I love what Swinney said. You see, he's keeping Trevor humble. He's keeping him hungry. So it should be in our Christian life. We should be longing for more of God. And that's what Milton Frazier taught me in his example of walking with God. He did not get frustrated with these guys. I'll never forget one lesson. I told it at his memorial service. Some of you were here and you heard this story. I'll never forget, somebody took him behind the woodshed at one time who was very spiritually immature and challenged him as the pastor over some issues. And the man stood there and took it. And I thought, dude, stand up for yourself. This guy's out of line. I know the scripture says we shouldn't lord it over God's heritage, but there's a time when you should draw a line in the sand. He sat there like one who hung on the cross and allowed the persecution and allowed the lambasting. Next morning, Monday morning, I'm thinking, what's staff meeting going to look like? What's going to be the staff dynamic today? It's the first major conflict that I saw happen on this church campus. He called me on the phone. He says, Brother Jeff, I'm going to pick you up. We're going to go out and visit some shut-ins today. Oh, okay. Now he wants a private setting. So in between visits, we can have a chance to talk about. Now this is what you saw unfold last evening. Okay? You've been in the big city of Charlotte, the big church of Northside. But here, in a small town, you know, where it's Uncle Joe at Petticoat Junction a lot of times, in church politics even in our desires to go farther in our faith, sometimes these things happen. And it's not the first time, and it's not the last time. So you as a rookie staff member, let me give you some wisdom and discernment. Sometimes you got to take a little heat and back away and give it to God. That's what I was expecting. Or, this is why this guy got bent out of shape. 5 years ago, something happened, he got offended, and he will not let it die. He didn't either. We missed double-digit shut-ins. He walked into people's rooms who oftentimes could not even converse about their wherewithal. He did not have to instruct me. He modeled what grace is all about. I'll never forget one of the most important lessons in leadership. It's how he handled that situation. Now that thing continued to fester, and I personally believe it would have been wise to go and confront that at some degree. But I'll tell you what, that has lasted with me for a long, long time, of how he was not going to get impatient. He was not going to, step outside. May God bring shepherds like that back to the fold and have a chance to minister to his people. But these fringe guys, yes, they don't get it to the pastor of Pennsylvania But what I said to that pastor in Pennsylvania amongst a group of people was when he said that, he said it condescendingly. He did not say it as a shepherd. And I had a decision to make. I could just retain that and move on down the road. But much like the evening tonight, when I'll do a prayer huddle at the end with you, I just felt like I had to address that to the group. I didn't point out this individual and say, listen, hey dude, you're way out left field. I didn't make a personal application to him. But I just told the group, hey guys, I know these guys right here were really frustrated. They come in on Sunday, hit the time clock, and then they live Monday through Saturday with a life based upon what they're striving for. So they're not yet fully devoted followers of Christ. But guess what? Hey, aren't we all under construction? He who began a good work in you, Philippians 1:6, will be faithful to complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. And I said, fellas, we don't get those men. Why would it be 50 to 70% lagging behind? Because we don't get those men. Dabo Sweeney knows his players. I was telling the guys in Louisiana a couple weeks ago, we didn't win the championship 44-16 over Alabama. You know when we won the championship? 5 years ago against LSU in the Peach Bowl. When it was 4th and 16, and Taj Boyd comes back, little hope on the horizon, inside the 20 clock's running down. Les Miles done sent everybody to the bus. Game's over. Nuke Hopkins scoops one up off the carpet. We march on across half field, and Chris Catanzaro knocked down a 49-yard field goal to beat LSU 25-24. 9 times out of 10, that game would have been lost at 24-22. Clock runs out. Mismanagement by LSU, poor coaching decisions, but Dabo Sweeney was changing the culture. He was striving for players to believe in his system and what he was longing for. And because 4th and 16 happened, that allowed 5 years later to take the Sabaninator and the Crimson Tide behind the woodshed. That doesn't happen without LSU. And in your Christian life, there's going to be significant moments. Those of you going through the season of suffering, God wants to reveal himself very uniquely and show up in an amazing way. So allow him to come. And by the way, I've got some resources up here that I use with these guys along the way. I told you about, taking guys to college football. I'm a World War II buff. I'm going to be taking some guys to Bedford, Virginia. I'll close with this illustration tonight about the Bedford boys. These guys need something, put the cookies on the lower shelf. Here's 7 common issues that men face. John 10:10, the abundant Christian life. Most men are living defeated lives. So I take these guys, 50 to 70%, who after a rally like this say, you know what? Can we go to the next level? What is my right next step? That was great to be there, but now, hey, how do we sustain the momentum? And so as a result, we'll go through something that's tried and true. Then these last 2 guys will get us some deeper stuff to grasp what's going on. But there's no resource for the suffering man. Because we don't teach a man who is suffering. We come alongside, as you'll hear in the second session, we crawl in his foxhole. Because even when God is silent, he is never absent. So if you're suffering here tonight, God wants to come alongside and to walk along the valley of life with you. And some of us need to crawl in your foxhole. And these fringe guys, you stay frustrated, they'll keep hitting that spiritual time clock. But if you invite them out to some of the things you enjoy doing, you'll see God begin to break some barriers down and good things happen. And then finally, and we'll take a break, these last 2 guys are part of the core group. Remember, community, most of them aren't here tonight. Congregation, flying under the radar, stuff that you may not know about. Most guys don't reveal that. These guys here, 1 foot in the church, but 1 foot in the world. Not yet fully devoted followers of Christ. Now, some of them bought some fire insurance, and that's one of their issues. They've never really truly understood the gospel. But oftentimes, we haven't brought grace packaged with truth, and therefore, they're being left behind. These last 2 guys is a man who's growing, he's on the green. And here's a man who's leading, who's closest to the pen. God desires for us to grow in our faith, draw near to God, and he would draw near to you. At least half of you in this room tonight, according to statistics, are going to be a cultural Christian. You're going to live this life one to the next. You're going to be inexperienced in God's ways. There needs to be growth happening in your life at a foundational level. Hey, as a wise sage of the faith told me who was here in this church in 1986, Dr. Fred Brown, some of you attended the Bible conference. We had helped bring him here. I encouraged Pastor Fraser to say, hey, I'd love to get my Uncle Jack down here for a Bible conference, which we did one year. I'd love to see us bring Dr. Fred Brown. And I was taking Dr. Brown back to the airport. I said, hey, as you approach the sunset years of life, what would you pass on to a young understudy? Well, what is something I can continue to trumpet that wasn't shared this weekend with the guys? Particularly as I spent time with Ben. And Dr. Brown, the wise sage of the faith, says, the Christian life is a series of new beginnings. Baseball was one of my sports. Hey, it's great to see a new day when there's nobody on base. There's been no errors committed. Yesterday was a bad situation. Brad gives up a couple of gopher balls. We got to start over today from the mound. We had a couple of errors made out there in the field. Hey, today's a new day. Let's go try to win the Gold Glove today. That's what I think about yesterday. That's what I like about Coach Winnie. Hey, next play, next man. Let's move forward. Let's look out the windshield of life. These guys need to be reminded of that. But the man who's growing, which I hope that many of you will long for that in your life. You can take a digital step tonight from this fringe position and begin to move onto the green. Oh, you'll be on the outskirt of the green, but eventually you'll find yourself closer to God. God invites you, draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. That's the man who's growing. And then finally, my father is represented by this individual. Dad was a stock car driver. He ran Rockingham, Wadesboro, and Sherrall. 3-track circuits. Some of you guys enjoyed cars. We're talking racing area tonight. And so in 1956, he was the track champion of the dirt track at Rockingham Speedway. He got a ride, if you understand what that term means, okay, in the Southern 500 in 1956, the pinnacle for those guys in the minor leagues of the dirt tracks to come down here to Darlington Raceway. But the Labor Day race in 1956, Dad never ran in. You know why? Because the first Saturday night in August, his God story began to be this. God put me on a different track to run a different race. And as a result, he understood God's amazing grace at age 26. But he still was like the guy on the fringe. He let Mom get me involved. She was the spiritual leader of the family. He stood back and did the Sunday morning thing, hitting that time clock. But then they invited him to quartet practice because he liked music. And back in the day, that was the thing. Dad was a vocalist. Hey, come and join our quartet. He came on Sunday afternoon to the practice, had a chance to be exposed to the things of God, and as a result, he began to grow in his faith. And at age 33, he began to gather around a rock in our backyard that I call the prayer rock. And at 6 years of age, younger than you fellas, but almost like 12 back there, I wandered out one night to think, why is my dad gathered at that rock out there? And he was having a conversation with the Almighty God of the universe. 7 years, from 26 to 37, it took him to begin to fully live out his life verse, Galatians 2:20, which in a modern translation says this: I have completely identified myself with Christ. Or as Dabo Sweeney would say, I'm all in. You see these fellas right here on the fringe, they're not all in yet. These guys are growing, they're making progress, they're not quite all in. But to be spiritually needy, we are all in. We are fully committed. And by the way, that is not a static position. This is an algebraic line. We continue to grow in our faith. But these guys will come back and join me and say, hey, how can I pray for Les, who came to the museum with you? How can I pray for John, who went to the football game? Tell me how that went. I'll be praying that God will give you an opportunity to share the good news as God will allow. What about these fellows that are suffering? Who can we come alongside? What about the guys that need to be going forward in their faith? A leader will join the rest of us in going back and inviting them, modeling the faith, and striving to teach them. It's like the green light that went on in Freddie when I went there and taught him the shell drill. He'd never seen that before. Morgan Wooten, the famous high school coach of DeMatha High School in Hartsville, Maryland. That's his famous man-to-man defense drill, 4-on-4, the shell drill. I'm out there teaching it to the team, but there's a light bulb going off in Fred's life. He said, man, you should throw in a clinic. I just showed him one drill. But you know what? If a guy's hungry for God, it'll look like a clinic. when you go fishing with him, and you go hiking, and you go hunting. And then the day he says, what a fantastic time it was just to have some hang time with him. And I so appreciate you investing a little bit of your life into mine. So where are you on the journey of faith? Spiritually off course, spiritually inquiring, spiritually suffering, spiritually inexperienced, spiritually growing, or spiritually leading. God wants to meet you where you are. And He wants to have some of us to walk alongside of you as we go forward in our faith in this journey of life. And it's not always forward progress. Summertime hits, kind of break some habits and, get out of things. And so sometimes we take some steps backwards. But we're there, longing to see God take us to the next level. Would you stand with me as we pray together? So in this moment, I want you to come up with a number. 4.2, whatever it is. Where are you on the journey of faith? You've got to be honest with God and have a chance for the Lord to reveal Himself to you. When you walk out of this room tonight, we're going to take a break and come back for session 2. When you walk out of this place tonight, I'm going to invite you to come up and tell me what that number was. Not because I need to know it, but it shows me you've taken inventory. And I always look at this one guy and say, Coach, listen, wow, I do long to go further on the course of life, but not until you showed me where I was. And now I need to know the steps I need to take to go forward. And we're going to help you to find those steps. You can visit our website, a lot of good information there. Those who brought you tonight, leaders in your local church, hopefully they have an intentional pathway to take you further down that process. But God longs to reveal Himself to you, to meet you at your point of need, and to go forward in your faith. Lord, cement this truth in these men's lives as we think about Luke 19:10, the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Zacchaeus was the man who was inquiring in the faith. He was seeking to see who Jesus was. Is there a Zacchaeus here tonight? Lord, who are the guys that are hurting? They're suffering hardships. What about the guys at the beginner level, inexperienced in God's ways? Those who are living out Philippians 3:15 on the green of life, keeping focused on the goal, wanting everything that God has for them. Or the guy who is all in. He's identified himself completely with you. His ego is no longer simple. Give us a humble spirit.